Real quick, I think I found a sentence that uses the word that 6 times in a row, but still makes grammatical sense. So if someone says to you, I think that was a good show, you could say to them, I think that comes after is unnecessary. And that's 6 that's in a row. I think that comes after is unnecessary.
Hey, hi, welcome. We have a story on advertising as always and some psychedelics. Okay, so Montana has legalized recreational marijuana earlier this year, and now it's in the hands of the Department of Revenue in Montana, and they are now tasked with kind of creating laws around what businesses can do, what brands can do in the state, and specifically what they can advertise and how they can advertise. And it's less about like how they can advertise and more so how they cannot advertise. And it's a bit of a problem because they've pretty much cut off every single avenue of people getting the word out about their brand. There are the typical ones, which is like no TV advertising, no radio advertising, no newspaper advertising, which is fine. And, I don't think people really get much out of that anyway. But there are the other things that are a bigger bummer, which is like no billboards. And that's only starting to become more prevalent across the country. I think Colorado just got billboard advertising. But then things like no social media advertising whatsoever. And that is a huge blow to the marijuana industry in Montana, because that is the way to get the word out, especially if you're a brand new dispensary in the state. How are you going to tell people about it? How is there any way when you have taken away social media? I don't know if there is, except I guess, go around with flyers, but that's probably illegal as well. And some businesses in the state have kind of, well, understandably so, expressed some dismay about this whole thing. One of them saying specifically that they had to focus on so many things to get it legalized in the first place that they kind of forgot about advertising. They forgot to get the advocacy around advertising up to the same level as other parts of the bill. So that's a bummer, and hopefully it will, even out eventually. But for now, advertising is looking like it's going to be pretty much impossible in Montana. And advertising across the country has always been a very murky thing. I've done stories about it in the past, especially about Facebook kind of shadow banning a bunch of ads. From time to time, they delete groups just because they just seem to do sweeps, and you never know when they're going to come. Montana right now is going through it. Hopefully that will change. They're actually in the part of it's public comment right now, so it's not yet finalized, but I don't think it'll change very much.
I feel like everyone should just get high and go on walks. I really recommend it. I really highly recommend it.
Second story is on a more light note, which is that psychedelics is slowly kind of growing across different parts of the country. It's not just centralized in one part. It's not just California, or it's not just cities in California. There's a nice little article in Marijuana Moment that takes 3 different cities across the country and shows where psychedelics are, or entheogens, which is some of these places. By the way, entheogens are the same thing as psychedelics. It's kind of, they're just trying to take another term and use that as opposed to psychedelics, which has that old 60s stigma, Timothy Leary behind it. I almost said Timothy Dalton. So the first city that they looked at is East Hampton in Massachusetts. And surprisingly, this would be, if they were to decriminalize psychedelics in East Hampton, that would be the 4th city in Massachusetts. So Massachusetts has quickly become one of the central hubs of psychedelics across the country, which is very cool. And also marijuana, of course. They're in the process of exploring resolutions, so it's a while before this would come to law, but it seems like they're in that process. Second city is Grand Rapids in Michigan. And Michigan, again, is another state that has shown huge income coming in from marijuana being legalized. So the city of Grand Rapids is now looking to introduce a resolution, same case as East Hampton. And by the way, this is all targeting decriminalization, so it wouldn't be legalization, but this is the first step when it comes to psychedelics. It's going to be you decriminalize, you create a body of people who kind of research how best to create a legal system within the state or city in this case, and then you enact some sort of therapy permits or licenses, which nobody has really gotten to yet, but it seems like Oregon will be the first to actually do that. So all of these cities here are in the decriminalization phase. And the third city is Arcata, which is in that kind of Northern California hub. I've been saying hub a lot, but in that Northern California space where they are very hippie-esque, and there is, Humboldt, which is the weed capital of the country, allegedly. So it only makes sense that Arcata is next in terms of decriminalizing psychedelics or entheogens. They've been kind of bouncing back and forth between different committees. However, it just passed another committee, so it's going back to the full city council. But the point is, the fact that these three cities, East Hampton, Grand Rapids, and Arcata, are all kind of in different parts of the country, but all trying to decriminalize psychedelics, it seems like we're right in the midst of a huge rush of other cities across the country doing it, and then comes the states, and then comes a federal consideration of this. So this decade we're going to see a lot happen in terms of psychedelic treatment, psychedelic therapy, psychedelic legalization, psychedelic sales. It's very cool. That's it for today. We'll be back on Friday with some more stuff. See you then.
Yeah. This is what it's like to trip on shrooms.
Yeah.